Now, regardless of what you think is what the actual event of what this group of cops did to this gentleman, again, that's the ancillary issue. You could debate that from now until the end of time. Again, we could go into the who, what, when, and where. We have to look at the why. You got to get down to the causal factors and the understanding of what is really taking place beneath the surface. And the only thing I really want to truly mention about this is that the protests that erupted as a result of this event, regardless of whether you want to see it as some type of a psyop or an actual murder, first of all, the first aspect of the George Floyd situation is police have been summarily executing people on the streets of the United States for decades and decades and decades. It does not matter whether it is a white, black, Asian, Hispanic police officer doing it to a white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Native American human being. The agent of the ruling satanic masterclass doing it to the person who should have their rights respected in whatever way that people should be respecting rights and not conducting violence upon them is not happening. We are seeing police violence against all kinds of people. It is not a matter of race. It is a matter of the state and the violence of the state versus the people and their rights. First and foremost, that is the principle. That is what I've been saying since day one. Race is essentially an illusion. There is one, quote, race, the human race. You know what the real race is? The race against time to morally educate the human race. That's the only race there is. Okay? Before this planet becomes a real, true shit show. You haven't seen the real shit show break out yet, folks, but you're going to see it in your lifetime if things continue along this trajectory. This very dark timeline trajectory that we are on. There are at least the next aspect of this event that took place regarding George Floyd is there are now, as a result of what occurred, at least 5 separate groups of people involved in the civil unrest that has broken out throughout the country. Stop lumping them all together. It is not one group of, quote, protesters. This is what I hear everybody doing, no matter what side of the flip of the coin, left or right, they come down on. The ones who lean left, oh, it's all legitimate protesters and they could do anything they want. The ones who lean right, oh, these protesters are a disgrace. The police and National Guard should shut them down. It's not one group of people. Stop calling them the protesters or the rioters. It's 5 groups of people at the minimum. And I'm being generous saying, I say it's at least 5 is my qualifier. Here are the groups of people. Protesters with legitimate grievances about the murder of someone. And again, if you even want to look at other alternative conspiracy theories about the nature of this situation, fine, go right ahead. It takes nothing away that the police have been murdering human beings forever. And we're up to over close to 20,000 people have been summarily executed on the streets since 9/11. Above 15,000, between 15 and 20,000, probably around like 17,500 or 18,000 have been summarily executed without trial by their peers, which is said even in their own political system that they have a right to. Summarily executed without trial by peers on the streets of America since 9/11. That's the police state we've become. We were already a bad police state before that. It's just gotten infinitely worse. The second group, police and government agent provocateurs. An agent provocateur is a French term meaning a person who conducts violence in an otherwise peaceful and legitimate political protest to try to give the people who are peacefully and legitimately protesting a bad name. So the police are going out, they have groups that are going out onto the streets and doing violence to people and businesses just to give the legitimate protesters a bad name. That's group number 2. Group number 3 are radical leftists and outright communist agent provocateurs like Antifa, who are not freedom advocates or truly anti-fascist groups. We stand for anti-communism and anti-fascism here on What on Earth is Happening because we are anti-authority. We are anti-all authority. We are anti-all authoritarianism. We are anti-all totalitarianism. We are for the building of a voluntary society without coercion and violence. These are not people like that. They are not anarchists. Stop saying that these people are anarchists. They are fake-ass anarchists. They are taking the label and name of anarchy and using it to an agenda that suits their own ends, which is a communist takeover or a radical leftist takeover, a socialist takeover at the very least. Stop lumping them in with legitimate protesters and or anarchists. They are neither of the kind. The next group of protesters which are out there are white supremacist agent provocateurs going around. These agent provocateurs, no matter what persuasion, police and government, radical leftist, communist, Antifa, or white supremacist, they're all actually out there doing violence to people and property to make the protests look bad and to make anarchists look bad. That's it. That is what the goal and agenda of all of these people are to do. The white supremacist factions want to make people who are non-white look bad and look violent so that other white people will go run to their cause and say, oh, look at these other races doing such violent things and rioting. It's largely started, all of the protesting, and some of it is fallen into by people who are very angry and have a lot of misplaced angst. Okay? But you have to stay out of that and keep it on focus about the principles of the state versus the people. That's the main principle. And we're running out of time. I may have to continue this next week. Let's see how it goes. The fifth group is opportunist criminals, otherwise known as common thugs and common thieves. And they're out there taking advantage of this at a very horrific time so that they can just take what they want or hurt who they want because of totally wrong mindset that they have, and then they want to carry out wrong behavior. But I want to let people know these three groups in the middle, folks, that I've just put in red, you have to understand one thing about them. They're all essentially the same people. They're funded by all the same people. They are funded from behind the scenes by the social engineer ruling class, whether it comes from the radical left aspect of the satanic network or the radical right aspect. It doesn't matter. They're just two hands that are all looking to put the human population in chains and getting a clamp down and martial law instituted because they run the show from behind the scenes and they control all of the provocateurs from behind the scenes. They own the police, they own the radical left-wing aspect of the provocateuring, and they own the radical right-wing aspect of the provocateuring. And if you don't understand that, you're a naive punk little bitch that hasn't done your homework. You're a naive punk little bitch that hasn't done your fucking homework. Get as offended as you like. It will never make what I just said untrue. It's all, those groups are controlled by the same groups of people. And we need to stop lumping all these people together as the protesters. Here's the main principle to understand. Everyone involved in the protests and or riots believe in the legitimacy of government and want it to continue.